Tonight, we got something that I think is going to be really good, and this is the topic of which I've already said it to the group here, and that is escaping self-deception. We like to deceive ourselves. We like to live in the land of denial, right? Pretend that we don't see that we got a problem. I don't got a problem. It's everybody else that's got a problem. If they would all fix their stuff, then my life would be great. And you are deceived. Would you agree with that?
Oh no, I know I got a problem. Oh my God, these Christ will save it. I already know.
Well, that's good. You're you gotta be able to name it, to tame it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
So
when you try, sometimes everybody, they always tell me about quitting drinking, and I know they care, but sometimes what works for somebody else doesn't work for somebody else.
well, that's absolutely true. I'm gonna need to get back into this, meeting here. So tonight we're going to be talking about escaping self-deception. That'd be a good thing for us to do. So, hey, turn your awareness up. You may not like this topic, and there's probably a reason why you don't. Right? There's a reason, because leave me alone. I want to stay in my self-deception or in my denial. Right? I've got the curtains closed, and I don't want to be able to see. Isn't that foolish that we do that to ourselves? That if we lie to others long enough, we will begin to believe our own lies. And what does that do to us? You think you get away with it? You don't think that it affects you? Well, we'll be talking about that tonight. So, step 5. We admit to God, to ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrong. And today's topic goes right in, ties in so well with step 5, because if we are able to do step 5, admitting to God, to another human being, and to ourselves, then we're starting to pull out of that self-deception. Now, just because we start to see something doesn't mean we're all the way out, but it's a process. Would you not agree? It takes time for our thinking to change and for us to be able to see, because the trouble is, neuroscience tells us we actually don't even see what we see. We see what we think we see. Did you catch that? We oftentimes we see with our memory, and we don't see the way things are. We looked at stuff, and our eyes don't see pictures. It picks up energy waves, and our brain has to transform them. And the fact of it is, most of what we see, the brain fills in for us. It makes up stuff. It tries to match the way it needs to be. All right, a computer tries to guess at what it is that's going on and give you that information. Send you that information. Our brain is just like that. And that's the reason why lying doesn't just harm others. It actually messes with our own mind. What do you think about that? What about you out there in TV land, video land? We're going live right now, so we're not editing or cutting anything out. This is the way it is. Okay. So Hey, does anybody, do we need to go over the bracelets? Does anybody want to celebrate any clean time with bracelets? Anybody? Okay.
What is the cover for 7 years? Black? I don't remember.
You know, one thing about, I decided a long time ago, there's just some things I don't try to remember. But, you know, if it's written down like it's on this sheet,
I
you
go
know.
35 a week.
Yeah. So, 7 years would be, silver, that'd be 5 or more.
Well, I got the wrong bracelet.
Okay.
I got a black one.
Okay, well, black one is for 2 or more. So it's, you know, that is actually correct. So if you want,
I don't need to.
okay, well, you can get a silver one if you like.
Where else I go, they got the keychain. They said, Deborah, you got 15. I said, I know, I just want to see if you're going to give me one.
Well, let's celebrate the successes, right?
There you go.
We need to do that. And you know what? That's good stuff for our brain, by the way.
Everybody needs to be congratulated.
So-
Yeah.
I agree. So, all right. So tonight we're going to go over a few quotes. Let's see what I got here. It says, "You'll never change your life until you change your choices." You'll never change your life until you change your choices. Is that not some truth there? If you don't like what's going on in your life, all you have to do is make some changes and make some new choices, healthy choices, by the way. Of course, if you want to mess your life up, you already know how to do that, right? Why are you smirking at me like that for? So, Emma McAdams says that curiosity is such a good quality to try to practice in your life, but she says curiosity is an antidote to anxiety. What do you think about that? She also says this, not like this. She says, we are not cognitive beings that have emotions. We are emotional beings that have thoughts. There would have been a day in my life I would have disagreed with that. But the more I learn, the more I agree with that statement. You may disagree. That's subject to change. Okay, do I want to read any more of these? Now, all right, Heather, won't you come on down and read us the 12 steps? Welcome, Heather. I need to adjust this for you. Good.
All right, good afternoon. How is everybody?
All right.
All right, the 12 steps. 1, we admitted that we were powerless over our problems and that our lives had become unmanageable. I know that nothing good lives in me. I want to do what is right, but I can't. Step 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. God is working in you, giving you the desire and the power to do what pleases Him. Step 3, we made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. Dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all He has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind He will find acceptable. Step 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Let us test and examine our ways and let us turn back to the Lord. Step 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. Step 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and He will lift you up in honor. Step 7, we humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. If we confess our sins to Him, He is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all wickedness. Step 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Do to others as you would like them to do to you. Step 9, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. If you are presenting a sacrifice at the altar and someone has something against you, leave your sacrifice there at the altar. Go and be reconciled to that person. Then come and offer your sacrifices to God. Excuse me. Step 10, we continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admit it. If you think you are standing strong, be careful not to fall. Step 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. Devote yourselves to prayer with an alert mind and a thankful heart. Step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. Dear brothers and sisters, if another believer is overcome by some sin, you who are godly should gently and humbly help that person back onto the right path, and be careful not to fall into the same temptation yourself. Thank you.
Thanks, Taylor.
Hello, everybody. Step 5, escaping self-deception. We admit to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. We may fool ourselves into believing that we can simply bury our wrongs and go on without ever having to admit them. In time, we all discover that those deeds we thought were buried once and for all were actually seeds. They grow and bear fruit. Eventually, we have to deal with a crop of consequences and face the fact that self-deception doesn't work to our advantage. You will always harvest what you plant. Those who only live to satisfy their own sinful nature will harvest decay and death from that sinful nature. Those who live to please the Spirit will harvest everlasting life from the Spirit. Galatians 6, 7, and 8. If we claim we have no sin, we are only fooling ourselves and not living in the truth. But if we confess our sins to God, He is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and cleanse us from our wickedness. Step 5 says goodbye to self-deception and hello to forgiveness and cleansing. We should note that there is cleansing from every wrong, not from wrongdoing in a general sense. Admitting the exact nature of our wrong includes giving our account in exact and specific terms. It is only when we get specific that we will no longer be able to fool ourselves about the nature of our wrongs. Since we cannot ignore God and get away with it anyway, we might as well come clean and be forgiven. I agree. I definitely do. Because I was reading up here, it says, we have to face the fact that self-deception doesn't work to our advantage. So I was thinking, well, for so long, I was deceived, living in self-deception, addiction, whatever, all those years, that my wrongs looked like normal things to do. To me, it wasn't wrong. I probably knew better, but
Excuse me?
I probably knew better.
Excuse me?
I knew better.
Did you not?
Well, I didn't want to.
Yeah, but did you not?
No, I knew.
Okay. Just,
Yeah.
just checking. We don't want
But
you
I
deceiving
probably-
yourself right now.
Yeah, no, but at that time, I don't know if I knew better or not because I didn't know another way. I didn't-
Really? Is that the truth?
That was my excuse.
Yeah,
Back
that was
then.
your excuse.
See, I just uncovered something. It's a slam sign. See, right there.
Right there?
Alright. But no, I was just thinking about when like do so wrong for so long, it just seems right. So that's self-deception.
It is.
Right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
Staring you in the face.
Bam, there you are.
Just kidding. Just pick it up.
This is a very intense topic.
It is.
It really is. Because sometimes we can go like when I was in the beginning in recovery and I didn't work the 12 steps, I didn't learn none of this stuff. You know, so I was in recovery, but I wasn't learning recovery stuff all the way. Just picking up what I pick up at the meeting and go throughout my week and then, or however, there's some people who go to lots of meetings. I mean, but my main thing was knowing that I was wrong. Ultimately, knowing that I was wrong and facing it one day. I still come to those days.
That's two different things.
But knowing
Knowing that you're doing something wrong and then going ahead and facing it and dealing with it.
Yeah.
That's two different things. It's hard to know.
Yeah.
And it's hard to correct.
So that's probably harder to correct.
I don't know if it's harder or not.
Yeah,
It's hard.
it's tough.
But you can't correct it if you don't know.
No, you cannot.
If you can't name it, you can't change it.
There you go. Yeah, anything else? Anything?
Oh, you're,
No, you got
you're
it.
giving me permission?
I'm giving you permission.
Does
It's my
anybody else
favorite
have
time.
any questions or
Yeah.
comments?
Yeah, before Doug gets.
So, the scripture there out of Galatians, made reference to, for all were actually seeds. So what's your thoughts about that?
Well, I thought like you planted all. I was thinking like, okay, I was watching this show on TV today, and like there was a cave in on a cave, and they had to go in this cave to get these people. And so the lady would leave a glove, a rubber glove, medical glove, to mark the way so that they wouldn't get lost when they brought the people back out. And I was sitting here reading this, and I said, oh, that lady, that's the seeds. That's like us planting seeds. And I thought, well, what if you come around the corner and the seed you planted years ago, it could be some big tough guy that you're mad at you or something, you know? Boom, right there in your face, you know? Stuff we planted years ago, sometimes could probably still come out today.
Well, because we can, because the fact of it is, whatever we plant's going to grow.
Where are we planting it though? In ourselves?
Well, it may, before that, it talked about thoughts that we bear.
Yeah.
And so, but we not only plant in ourselves, we plant it in our
Everything around us.
life, we plant it in our community, we plant it in our world, we
Everything
plant
that we
seeds
touch.
all over. I mean,
Yeah.
Wherever you throw those seeds.
Yeah.
Where
Makes
have
sense.
you thrown some of these seeds, Tommy?
Some places, you know?
You got that right. Now, the fact of it is,
Got me on that one.
yeah, but what you were getting to was about, we may have some consequences coming from seeds that we've planted, which is potentially true, right?
Yeah.
If we let, weeds grow easier than fruit or anything that produces vegetables or anything that we would normally try to consume. And but
But it can consume us.
But a lot of weeds seem to have the ability to throw a lot of seeds too. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
But
Some of them look real pretty too.
But not all those seeds grow.
Yeah.
A lot of them can. But, you know, if we tend to our garden, we can eliminate some of those weed
Stuff
seeds.
that's like laying dormant, waiting
Yeah,
to
yeah.
just sprout.
And,
any
and the
moment.
fact of it is, if we're diligent, we can head them off at the pass earlier than later.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of like my brother, which has a tree service, he says, if people will just take care of those little saplings early instead of waiting 10 years, and where now it's a big tree,
Yeah.
It's a whole lot easier to get them in, in the first months or maybe even the first year than it is waiting until they get big and got roots and stuff,
Yep,
right?
that's very true. I got lost for a second. Sorry.
It's all right.
I was reading notes and listening to him.
Okay.
But the roots,
The roots.
yeah, that's, I don't know. The roots, I think about it like, well, it says we'll be forgiven for this stuff, right?
We can have forgiveness, but the fact of it is, we also, we have to deal with the crop, the consequences of the crop.
Yeah.
And that's part of, now, people don't like this, but that's part of our recovery process, dealing with the consequences. Hello?
So we can't just shove it off on somebody else or just stuff it away.
It's like it's not my fault now because I've been forgiven. Well,
I'm better now.
hey, no, and it's good, but dealing with the consequences helps us to develop that recovery inside, to make some changes. That's not what I want to be. That's not who I really am. I want to do good instead of doing harm. And I may have to take care of some consequences. I might even have to go to jail.
I've had that happen.
Did I say something?
You may.
You know, I got that in EWI, it's on the 26th of last year. Every day I deal with those consequences because I drive on a hardship license. And every day I'm scared that they're gonna run my plates and they're gonna pull me over. You know, and I live with that consequence every single day. And like, I don't think I'll ever touch pills again because of it, because of the severity of the consequence of having to deal with that every single day of my life, you know? And I'm gonna have to deal with that till January the 19th. But that's, you know,
And that's exactly what we're talking about. And if I can use your situation here is, there was, not that you weren't aware of these potential consequences, but what we were doing was we were escaping into denial, okay? We were pretending, well, I'll never get caught, it never will happen to me, or it won't be that bad if it does. We pretend, right? We deny, we lie. Hello, right? And if we don't, this is going to be a little harsh, and I don't mean it to be, I don't want to hurt anyone, but if we don't have the capacity to learn from the truth that we already know, then we have consequences that come up because of our choices to help us to learn.
So something bad.
If we live through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's harsh. But that's what step 5 is about, is that we finally come to the place that we admit, we understand, I'm ready to make a change, and I'm so much ready to make a change, I'll tell God about it, I'll confess it in myself, I'll recognize it, and I'll tell even another human being, which I so don't want to do, right? But if you can do that, that means you are working on being transformed. You are working in recovery. Does that make sense? What you just did right there was a true sign of working on some recovery right there. Because that was a hard statement to make. Because that's the first time you said that out loud in the meeting that I'm aware of. So congratulations. Go ahead.
I'm good. I'm good. I just don't know who to call up here. Who's next? Willie? Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. How we doing?
Hey, all right, Willie. We're ready.
Escaping self-deception.
What'd you say?
Escape. Hey, I ain't in the mic, am I? How about that? Is that better?
That's better.
All right. Escaping self-deception.
Good.
This has been a real struggle for me because this is one that I do quite frequently, or I did quite frequently. You can ask Doug because he's known me for years, and I've used them on him quite a bit. Not in the last 2-3 years.
I'm gonna plead the fifth.
You know I'm right, Doug. But no, I mean, come to think of it, I struggled. Me doing reflection on this, I really struggled because a lot of stuff has come up. It has brought a lot of stuff up that I have done in the past that just, I wasn't ready. I still am not ready to deal with, but, it's come up, so now's the time to deal with it. Better now than later.
Yes.
So I'm working on that. So basically, question one, as I examine myself, says yourself, can I admit to some self-deception in the past? Yes, it's there. I mean, 20 years ago, I would do stuff that deliberately I knew was going to get me in trouble or that I'd have to pay for later. And I wouldn't care. I didn't care. If the person that I did it to got mad at me, there'd be another confrontation. And sometimes it went my way, sometimes it went their way. I dealt with that consequences. So, yes, I can say that on that. Number two,
I got a comment
Go ahead.
on that question right there. Now, this not pertain to you, as far as I know. But, I've known people that would get so upset at something, even their mate, and break out their windshield in their car. And it's in their own car, but it's in, you don't have to raise your hand, but now what, would you like to expound on that?
Yeah, I used to do it all the time. I did it frequently, yeah. No window in the own car.
And would would some of that apply to what we're talking about here about deceiving yourself and denying, what the cost is going to be for our actions? Would you have any thoughts on that, Matthew?
Just kind of like tearing up your own stuff, or harming yourself, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why would a person, you think, and you don't have to answer this, but why would a person do something like that to harm their own life or their own well-being?
I'm not sure.
because at the time, you're only hurting yourself at that time. to keep from hurting a spouse or somebody else.
Okay, all right. Anybody else have any comments? Not saying that I haven't done stuff, I've never, not intentionally broken out windshield, but, you know, not that I haven't destroyed some things. But why in the world do we do that? What does that give us? Now, you're saying it's using it as an avoiding technique
It releases,
and a coping mechanism.
Right.
But such a destructive coping mechanism, right?
it affects off the instinct first.
Do what?
It's more of an instinct first. That just happens before you actually think about it.
More of like a reaction?
Yes, when you get to that place, it's,
Is it a reaction or is it a learned behavior? There's the question. Jeff, do you have a comment on that?
I think it's more wrong behavior.
Learned behavior. What do you mean by that?
What you surround yourself with, you become. That's
So the patterns you observe, you then emulate,
pretty much.
it pretty much is right. Got you, didn't I? Fooled you in. Go ahead, Willie.
question 2. Does anyone have the freedom to speak truth into your life on a regular basis? Then or now? Then, I'd have to say no. I didn't want no one knowing. I kept my past to basically, hey, I did it. That's my past. No one else needed to know about it. And I kept it that way for many years. Nowadays, I talk more about it. And to who? To get to that point, they'd have to be someone I really trust. I mean, truly and honestly. On that one.
There's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah, no, it's bits and pieces, because I won't give you a whole story at one time. It might take months, but it comes out eventually. So, and then on question 3, ask 3 or 4 trusted friends to write 5 words describing your strengths, 5 words describing your weaknesses. Record them, hear, and examine them to discover areas that you can work on within a small group and trusted fellow strugglers. We did not do that. I am not ready to see what 4 or 5 people that I confide in think about me. That's more self-deception right there. And I just got why they put that question in there. I fell for it.
But that is a very powerful tool to help. You know, Zach talks about the first time that he really used that himself and how it impacted him. But yeah, you have to be able to come to a place to be able.
I can see where that would really, and that's why I didn't do it. A few years ago, someone at the meeting had this done, and they asked me to do that for them. And they kind of didn't like what I put down, but I was being truthful with it. And I put something that he thought was his was his strength. I put it on his weakness side and basically told him why I did it. So, but that's on. But yeah, I just that just hit me while I was up here after reading that question. Why I just did this another self-deception on there.
Anybody have any questions? Comments?
Like,
Huh?
answer that? Would you like
have that answered? Oh, no, that's fine.
No, go right ahead. Give it to me. I'm ready now. I'm not. Trust me. I think, once I see it, I'll think about it, and then I'll let my mind just go away with me. I'll go so far this way, but no, let's go back, and then I'll go that way again. And it'd take me days to process it. So, I'm done.
Thank you, Willie.
Thank you, Willie.
You know, it's not an easy thing. What?
Should talk about my judge deal.
It's not an easy thing to be, to disclose and open yourself up, and, you know, you made a statement that you're not being as vulnerable as it's asking you to be, but you're being more vulnerable than you used to be. Right. You know, so that's progress.
All right, how's everyone tonight?
You may need to pull it up a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm a little shorter than you.
All right. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, I'm gonna do just kind of escaping self-deception. Step 5 says we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. And I looked up self-deception, and the theory suggests that if individuals act in ways that contradict their beliefs, they may change their beliefs and thoughts to align with their actions. I put justify, minimize, rationalize. And it says one common type of self-deception is shame-based hiding. And it says
What does that mean?
it's when it's like here lately, I've dealt with some things that I had to admit to my wife, and it's not been real easy to, because once I get into them, I go into hiding. I want to, the shame and the guilt and the wanting to beat myself up, wanting to tear myself down because of why I've done what I've done. But I think just like Adam and Eve, they went into hiding.
Right.
They felt ashamed because they felt they knew what God's command was. They did just the opposite of it, and so I think it puts us into shame when we're in, and then we hide, and then we isolate or whatever and then I think that's most of the time why people continue on in their own addiction and hurt, habit, hang-ups, because like me, if I get into addiction, I keep on going out there and continue on because I feel as though coming out of it, it's going to I don't know, I feel my actions because of my addiction and I run into that insanity, doing same things over and over and over, expecting the different result. And it leads me into isolation. And going back to what I was saying about my sharing with my wife, that every time I put myself back into the same old issue that I've had for years, it puts me into hiding, puts me into shame, guilt. I feel that she'd be my best friend. She should be somebody that I have to be honest with. And most of all, she encourages me. And I'll go into more when I get into questions, but that's my take on that, the shame-based hiding. I think that a lot of it, what's your thought on that as far as?
On the shame-based hiding?
The shame-based.
Well, I think that is a real strong tendency, and having, being aware that we are ashamed and feeling ashamed, and we have a tendency to hide when we're ashamed, we have to become aware of that and use that as a tool to help us to make those changes.
Right.
To deal, and those are consequences that we need to clear up, clean up, and that will help us to not then be living in shame because we know we messed up. And so we have to let that help us to make those changes that we need to make. But like we were talking about a while ago, consequences. If we can't do it by a healthy choice of change, character. Okay, if you want to say it in this way, if we can't do it out of character, then we're going to put ourselves in a place that we have pain that will help us to induce to make those changes. And so it's kind of like maybe we should say, thank you, pain, for coming to remind me that I have to make some different healthy choices. And when we start making those healthy choices, every time we do that, we pull off some of those shame rags or clothing or things that's setting us free, and where we can then begin to be like ourselves more or proud of ourselves that we're able to do that and be that we want,
Right.
to be transformed. That's my thought.
Yeah. Well, and I've seen myself, and like you said, we kind of reward ourselves when we do right. But in this same problem I've had, I was saying this, it makes me reward myself when I do good, but then when I do bad, then I'm upset. Man, why did I fail again? Why did I fail again? And I'm upset at myself because then I'm guilty, I'm shameful, and going to, this is all I've had this issue for years.
And
It's
that
just,
question is a good question to ask yourself, because there are some reasons why, and that's where you're trying to do what we're talking about right here, is to escape self-deception, because there's a part of us that believes that using our old coping mechanisms is going to help me. It's the way out. It's my answer. It's my survival. It's my, I deserve it, or whatever it is that we use to deceive ourselves.
Right.
And so, and if we'll learn from our experiences, especially our missteps, mistakes, then we can begin to make those changes. And they're hard because they're ingrained in us. And so the battle is not on the outside, the battle's on the inside. There's only one way to win, and that's to keep and stay in the fight even when we mess up.
Right. I think about what Paul said, in Romans 7, talked about,
Right.
what one thing I, want to do, I don't do. And this is out of Romans 7. And it's, the battle is there. I want to do good. I really want to do good of God, and I want to do what He wants me to do. But it's just like, on that other hand, I've got that.
Isn't it true? Of course, I don't know the particular dynamics, but isn't it true that yes, you may have relapsed or messed up or made a mistake, but if you really back up and look at it, I'm not trying to say that what you did is okay, but the fact of it is, I'm thinking that probably you have spread those events out. They become further and further apart. And isn't that progress? Isn't it progress?
It is.
And we need to recognize, because sometimes people think, well, you know, I got it, it's over, and they're setting themselves up for relapse with that mindset, right? I've got it whipped, it's over, I'm never having any more problems with that. You know, I've had people, and I don't mean this to sound derogatory, but me and Jesus has got it, and it's all done. But the fact of it is, and people got mad at me because I said, you need to have a plan how to recover, so you don't have to figure it out when you've messed up, so that you can get right back into the place you want to be instead of sabotaging yourself and being in a place you don't want to be. Did I say that again? So, but what I'm saying here is, yeah, you messed up, but the truth is, it's getting further and further apart, and that is part of recovery, whether we like it or not. Most people don't like it because we want one and done, okay? But it don't work that way.
That's not done, sir.
Yeah.
Instant gratification is what's done.
Yeah. And so it's and because that one and done is what we're talking about here. That is deception. You're believing a lie, right? Truth is, I'm not as bad as I used to be, but I'm better.
I still want to be better than that.
I'm going to be better than I am. I'm not as bad as I used to be, but I'm not as good as I'm going to be. And we stay on that. Yes, that's what I did. I say this all the time. Yes, that's what I did, but that's not who I am. I am going to do and be better. And the thing of it is, that will never change. It's a continual, ongoing, I'm going to be better.
Always trying to be better tomorrow than you were today.
And that is the most noble act there is to be better tomorrow than I am today. That's being honest. That's being open. That's being noble, in my opinion. Okay, I'm sorry.
And just going in, here it says the addict's self-deception is fueled by the motivated false belief that he does not have a problem. That's denial, what we had talked about in step 1, which is the omitted step. And then I looked it up as well in the Oxford language dictionary. It says self-deception is the action or practice of allowing oneself to believe that false or unvalidated feeling, idea, or situation is true. So,
Unvalidated
feeling, idea, or situation is true.
Yeah, when we want to, we can pick up any little old excuse and use it to be, and call it the truth, right? How'd that work out for you?
I'm here on it.
Yeah. But it's pretty much all good.
All right.
We'll let the chair.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And we're going to let you be first next week. How about that? And I really do enjoy you guys studying, and because I know it's working in you, okay? And I'm waiting on you. When are you going to jump in the ring?
We'll see.
That's what I said.
And thank you for your comments tonight. So let's see. I got all kinds of scratches on here from today's lesson, and we pretty much talked about Galatians, so I'm not going to rehash that, but I think I will touch real quickly on 1 John 1, 8, and 9. And it says, if we claim we have no sin, denial, right? If we claim we have no sin, we are only fooling ourselves. Self-deception, fooling ourselves, right? And boy, what is it they used to say? The biggest fool is the fool that fools himself, right? And not live in the truth. Man, we choose, we were talking about breaking out windows in our own vehicles and destroying ourselves. We had to deny truth to be able to be self-destructive or to be destructive to anything, right? It comes right down to it. To do harm, because the fact of it is, isn't it the truth? Let me ask you another question. Isn't it the truth that no one really ever gets away with anything? Isn't that the truth? Hello? Excuse me? You may think, yeah, well, again, excuse me? Right. And that in the moment deal is what we're talking about, right? Self-deception. I know what's true, but I'm going to pretend, or I choose not to, and all we're doing is cutting our own throat. That's what we're talking about here, right? Cutting our own throat. And we do it, and we do it. And maybe it's because of what we observed, because we taught that way, but wait a minute. We somewhere along the line, we're going to have to figure out, this is not working out for me. I learned the wrong lesson. Right? Hello? 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 Okay, let's go on. I can just drag these things out, can't I? Don't say anything. But if we confess our sin to God, He is faithful and just to forgive us of our sin and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness or wickedness. And so when we know, please catch this. I circled this statement here because I wanted to be sure that I brought this out. The importance of this statement. This is a very important strategic, statement here. But if we confess our sin, it's so important to realize that we've messed up. Instead of pretending or denying or trying to escape into that self-deception. And when we can finally say, I've messed up. I did wrong. I sinned. Whatever. But if we can do that, that is such a big turnaround time in us. Does that make sense? That's the beginning of the process. You say, well, it's painful. Yes, it's painful, but you know what? Right now, everything is going to be painful. If you continue that way, that is going to be painful. And my question is, which is going to be more pain in the long run? Hiding and lying, or coming clean with yourself and saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I choose not to do this anymore. Even if I do it, I don't want to do that. I am changing this. I am working on turning this ship around. You know, and from what I understand, ships out at sea, they can't turn on a dime. It takes a process. It takes some work. It takes some effort. It takes some time. So, and sometimes our will is a pretty big ship. Hello. Even our destructive will. But if we continue to choose, if we continue to recognize, we can do it. But sometimes we get tired and then choose to sabotage ourselves. That happens. We find an excuse, the reason why it's okay for me to sabotage myself this time. But then when you come to yourself, you say, I did it again. I did it. I don't like it, but I did it. That's the reason why this is so important. But if we confess our sin to God, okay, to someone else, another human being, to ourselves, okay, and begin to turn, because see, sometimes this is a tool that we use on ourselves to help shift ourselves. Does that make sense? I don't know about you guys, but I know about me. I've had to continue to do that. And stuff that we do, it's hard to undo, but we have to stay with it. And when you do stay with it, you like yourself better. Isn't that true? So, he wants to set us free. He said, this scripture here says that he would cleanse us from all wickedness. Other translations says all unrighteousness. And when you're cleansed from all unrighteousness, the only thing that's left is righteousness. Right standing with God is what righteousness is. Right standing with God. And if you're able to be, if you can know that you're in right standing with God, even though there's a part of you that may not feel like you are, but you know that you are, that's the beginning of shifting your feelings around to line up. It may take some time, but knowing the truth is so important to move, to line your feelings up with that truth. Does that make sense? That's what we're talking about, recovery. Okay? Am I too preachy tonight? Am I okay? All right. Okay. So I want to touch this one more thing and then I'm going to go on because I'm going to run out of time, which is normal, right? So he talked about here, says we should note that there is cleansing from every wrong. That's what we just talked about, right? There is cleansing for that, not from wrongdoing. Okay, wrongdoing will never be right. In other words, to do wrong, to do harm, to deny the truth, there is no, that's never going to be right. So it's never right to do wrong. Does that make sense? There is forgiveness for doing wrong. Okay, you're forgiven for that, but there's no righting of the doing of it. Have I made that clear yet? Do I need to do that again? That is never. I talked with this guy one time, and he was saying he shot a guy in a bar fight. Okay, and the guy died. And there's no way that doing that can be right. You follow me? Right? But he can be forgiven for what he did. Does that make sense? Was that too harsh of a example? Because if we hold on to stuff that we did, then we'll never get free. We'll always live in that shame, right? Yes, that's what I did, but that's not who I am. You follow me? Hopefully that helps you. All right. So, all right, let's go with Carl Jung's statement here that a quote that I wanted to throw out here, and I've read it before, but I really like it, and I think it applies to our topic here, and that is that the psychological rule says, the psychological rule says that when an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate. That's the beginning of this. That's the first line. Okay. So what does that mean? That means that if we don't go ahead and become aware and deal with what we've done, what's eating at us, if we don't work on resolving it, if we keep it hid, like we're talking about, okay, if we keep it hid, it's not going to stay buried. It's going to pop its head up and climb out and get all over you, okay, somehow. And we're going to say, well, it's just fate, okay? I knew it'd come back and bite me. It'd show up, you know. You follow what I'm saying? This is the psychological rule that he's talking about here. That if we don't deal with it, if we continually keep suppressing and denying our issues, our pain, our sin, our addictions, our obsessive compulsive behaviors, our doings that are unhealthy and unwise, if we don't deal with it, look out. It's going to get you. That's what psychology's saying. Okay? Right? And we already intuitively know that, right? We know that about everybody else, maybe not about ourselves. Deception. Oh, too much fun. Okay. Let's go forward. That is to say, okay, that's what it says. That is to say, when the individual remains undivided. Okay, what in the world does that mean? When we think, when we keep it suppressed, we don't realize that part of us that has acted out, that aspect of us that did that we're trying to hide it. As long as we keep it all bottled up in one thing, then we're in a problem here. So let's back up. It says that when the internal situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate. That is to say, when the individual remains undivided, okay, in other words, we're not. See, when you back up and say, I did that, that's not who I am. Okay, when we put some space in there, we recognize that's not the way I want to be. That's that old nature, as Apostle Paul was talking about. That's not who I am. That's what I did, but that's not really who I am. Okay? But until you do that, you're just hiding it and denying it, and you're not able to back up and look at it and realize. You're not able to create any distance so that you can see perspective. And that's where it's undivided. You're still pressing it down, pretending it's not there. You think it's dead, but it's not. It's unresolved, and it's going to come back. It's seeds that are going to grow. Okay, you follow me? And continue forward. And does not become conscious of his inner opposite. Okay, we need to become. I've already basically said that. We need to become aware of that inner opposite. That part of me that wants to be destructive or have that the old ways to hide, deny, lie, avoid, escape, obsessive, compulsive. When we until we recognize that opposite part of us that needs to be dealt with. See, when you realize that opposite part of it, that you're creating that space, and that gives you the opportunity to deal with that part of you that needs to be dealt with, and use God's help and grace and ministry to draw in to help you to deal with that part of you. Does that make sense? And the world must perforce act out the conflict. In other words, it's saying that it's inevitable. You either do it or the world forces that's here are going to bring it to you, and you're going to get the consequences come, and they can come double down. So the suggestion is it's way better for us to deal with our own crap. How about that? Does that make sense? I like Spinoza, and I've used this one. It ties in, and I know I've taken quite a bit of time here. It says, emotion, which is suffering, ceases to be suffering as soon as we form a clear and precise picture of it. And when we can see that's what I did, you're starting to get that picture. That confession says, that's what I did. I recognize it. That was wrong. That was a sin. That was a misstep. That wasn't right. When we are able to get the picture of it, see that picture, you're creating that space, that opposite perspective, and you're able to start to deal with it, begin to resolve it, and come to peace in your own soul. Until then, you're just feeding poison to your own soul, in my opinion. What do you think? All right. No comments? I understand. All right. Self-deception. We have, there we go. Yes, we're not going to do that. Where is there it is. All right. We're going to touch on, I got a couple things here on dangers of self-deception. How about that? Self-deception. You want some dangers? Here's danger number one. Self-deception limits potential. Okay? Growth depends on self-awareness. Bam. Growth depends on self-awareness. Okay? But if you're living in self-deception, then you're limiting yourself. You're stunning yourself. You're poisoning yourself. You're killing yourself. How about that? Number two danger. He says, self-deception weakens relationship. Self-deception justifies itself. Hear this. Self-deception justifies itself and attacks others. Amen or oh me. Okay. Mark Twain said this. This is a quote from him. He says, "We do not deal much in facts when we are contemplating ourselves." Because we're in self-deception. All right. We'll eliminate that one. Well, let's go. Now I'm going to touch on 5. I got about 6 minutes, 7 minutes. I got 5 symptoms of self-deception. How about that? Are you interested in some symptoms? Okay, 5 symptoms. All right. Symptom number 1, imposter syndrome. Okay, a successful person who believes that they're just lucky. Okay, but because they believe that they're not competent. Okay, things are going good, but they feel unworthy, right? And they feel like an imposter. Okay, what does that do to you? Okay, that is a symptom of self-deception. Okay, it's a symptom. Symptom number one. Symptom number two is an impulsive reaction. Okay, an impulsive reaction. A person who justifies thoughtless, knee-jerk reactions is cloaked in a fog of self-deception. Too much? Right? Right? A person who justifies thoughtless, right? All right, third symptom, number three, potential symptom of self-deception. So if you have this, you may be deceiving yourself. Okay? All right, number three, lack of concern for others. Lack of concern for others. Someone who says they don't care what others think or feel is likely walking in a fog of self-deception. Potential symptom number three. Number four, justification of bullying. Okay? If you're proud of pressurizing people against their will, you think that self-destructive behaviors are beneficial. That's self-deception, according to the information. Okay, we're to the last one. You made it to the last one here. Self-deception symptom. Everyone's wrong. Okay, it's a symptom. Could be that might give you an idea. If you're a person that thinks that everyone's wrong, when everyone is wrong, you are wrong, but you can't see it. I didn't make these up, by the way. Dude, don't respond to this, but did you identify any potential symptoms in your, or somebody you know? Well, I had 10 ways to look self-deception in the eye, but we're out of time. So, you want me to go through them real quick? All right, 10 ways to look at self-deception. 10 ways to look self-deception in a way. So it's a way of dealing with self-deception. Stay open to the possibility that you're lying to yourself. Yes, is that a good possibility? Number two, when 2 or 3 of your friends see something detrimental in your life, believe them. Number 3, corrective feedback isn't always wrong. Isn't always wrong. That's what it is. Isn't always wrong. Number 4, evaluate yourself by listen to this. Evaluate yourself by your purpose and values. Evaluate yourself. This is a way to deal with self-deception. But you need to look, what is my purpose and values? Not your resentments, your fears, and your defensiveness. Number 5, acknowledge the insight and skills of others. That's a way to be able to help yourself deal with, acknowledge that. Look for the good. I wrote in here, look for the good instead of always looking for the problem, because we humans have a real tendency to look for the problem. We look for the problem because if we can find a problem in somebody else, that makes me feel better. Because now you're worse than me, or at least not better than me. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, got a telephone pole in our own eye, right? Number 6, when you're pushed back, when there's a problem, okay? My interpretation. When there's a problem situation, ask, how am I making the world better? And what this is the focusing technique, saying just because I messed up or failed, how am I making the world better? Okay, instead of just caving our entire world in, but look, focus. Wait a minute, I'm not all bad. I got some. How am I making the world better? You follow me? Does that's the deal with some of this self-deception? Okay, because oftentimes when we start beating up on ourselves, then we exaggerate, we globalize. Everything's bad. Now that's totally impossible. Not everything. For anybody. Nobody's totally bad. Okay? Nobody. Even though you might think so. Okay? They're totally bad. Well, they might have a nice smile. I don't know. All right, number 7. Set achievable short-term goals. Do something you can achieve. That's so important. Okay, we don't want to set ourselves up by failure to push things too far out that we can't obtain, and then use that a way to beat up on ourselves. Okay, I knew I'd never make it. Well, let's have some realistic short-term goals. Okay, that's one way to deal with self-deception, according to the information. All right, say I was wrong. Boy, okay, that's almost ties into what 1 John 1:9 was talking about, right? Say that I'm wrong. The person who is never wrong is wrong, according to the information. So that helps us to understand self-deception. Number 9, focus on self-development before other development, which again is looking for people's mistakes. Take care of that. Take care of the issue of our own stuff in our eye before we deal with somebody else's speck or issue, right? Take care of our side of the street. Okay, even if their side is not so good. In fact, you may even help a little bit on their side of the street, right? Sometimes we mow the neighbor's yard. Hello? All right. Last one. Is that right? Yeah, last one. Build relationships with a mentor. Patterns do make a difference. That you see patterns in other people, you say, I like to be more like that. I like to be less like that. I've had bosses that I learned what not to do. Okay. I've had some that I learned what I didn't want to do. Okay. So advisors, guides, sponsors, that helps us to have a little more clarity, come out of that fog and begin to start to see reality really the way that it is. Questions? Comments? Statements? Any of this helpful? Could be, maybe, a little. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you and give you his peace. And of course, always make healthy choices. Till next time. Next week, Okay, be here, bring somebody with you. How about that? And for you out there in TV land, come on down and be with us. Good evening. Good night. Sayonara.